Hi Sagittarius, welcome to your September and October 2017 prosperity reading. This is a type of reading that I do on occasion, and I cover more than 1 month, looking at possible career and money matters. And I also have private readings where I do this. And I have a link below where you can check out my website if you're interested in a private reading. The difference, obviously, is going to be more personalized, especially since I'm using your natal chart. In these readings, I'm using the tarot and oracle cards. I'm not getting into the astrology, but in the private readings, I look at timing issues. But I also think that it's important to look at attitudes most of all, more than timing. Because if you just focus on timing, then you still are in that victim mentality or that disempowered mentality where you're looking outside of yourself to make things happen. And actually, if you think about the Magician in the tarot, that is a card of self-empowerment. And you doing what you can do to be a conscious co-creator. And note that I said co-creator. I didn't say that you are God, but that you are part of God. And as such, you have some of those same abilities. And one of them is to be a creative being. You know, coming up with an invention and making $1 million or making millions of dollars, that's being creative. Just as coming up with an award-winning song or like a song that sells millions of copies. So it's no different. Anything, if you come up with a very successful business, that's a creation. And that's something that you did, but there's also the spiritual aspect to it as well. So, without further ado, I'm going to do a simple 3-card spread. And this is for the tarot, and then I'm going to pick 3 oracle cards. If I pick the Magician, that's going to be awesome. Please be fluid with timelines because I'm recording this at the very end of August. And I'm going to pick a clarification card, even though I said I was only going to pick 3 because the Ten of Swords is not our resolution. Okay, good. Because sometimes the past position may actually be your future position, depending on when you're watching it, and we don't have to get like caught up in, oh, it's got to be September, it's got to be October. Okay, so what cards am I going to pick for the oracles? I like these Earth Magic cards. I'm enjoying the back. I love the color because it's such an interesting color. What would you call that? It almost looks like a not an eggplant. It's kind of like a brownish purple. Okay, this is Earth Magic. Oh wow, DNA, karma. It's funny, I was just, look at that strand, and that looks like the Kundalini. I think they said something like that the Kundalini is all those symbols of like the serpent, but that the snake on this pole, the pole is like the, what is that, the Sushumna? The spine, the lower spine. But anyway, I was just reading about upgraded DNA, or watching a video on it about ascension, and it was really crystalline DNA or something. I don't know. It's pretty cool. I think I am going to go with the ones I did with the last reading. I'm going to do Doreen Virtue, and I wonder how you guys feel about Doreen Virtue, kind of distancing herself from her own archangels, the cards, that kind of divinatory tools. You know, I think that even like a fundamentalist Christian who says, oh, this stuff, you should never get involved with it, I can totally respect that because if you are approaching this with the wrong mindset, then it can be detrimental to your life. You know, some people get addicted to reading. Some people, you know, become so superstitious. It can be like OCD, where they you know, they have to do certain things before they can, like rituals or what have you, because they think they'll have bad luck. So anything can be turned into something negative, and this is no exception. And that's why I stress personal responsibility at all times, and kind of de-emphasizing the predictive part of it, because to me it's honestly the least interesting. I'm more interested in personal development, and because that's something I can control. I can't control certain destinies, can I? Maybe certain things I can create my own reality, but there are things that I think are beyond my control too. It's not like an either or. So I'm doing my part, and I'm not going to focus on the future too much, because that, when you do that, then you give away your power to something outside of yourself. So I can, you know, I'm a pretty flexible person. I can understand where she's coming from, and I don't blame her if she feels uncomfortable with it. However, it is a bit strange, because now we have all these cards. I only have one deck of her cards, and I was never like a big follower of hers. I did watch some of her videos some of the time, but it was okay. You know, we all have things that we really resonate with, and for me, that was not anything that really just grabbed me to the point where I watched every week. But I respect her, and I respect her decision. You know, we have to do what's right for us. Okay, this is interesting. Peace offering, white buffalo calf woman. And by the way, I don't mean to suggest, when I said it didn't really grab me, I'm not trying to suggest that, it was not that interesting or anything like that. It's like we all have the things that really speak to us. My first love is astrology. And so I resonate with that the most, even more than the tarot, even more than oracle cards. And you might say, well, why are you doing these cards here? Well, I'm doing these cards because I do enjoy it. And I also think that it's something that a lot of people around the world seem to really identify with. So I want to be where the action is. I don't want to do things that I want to, and I do both. I do astrology too. So there's nothing, I don't think there's anything wrong with it as long as you're being responsible. And I did go back and forth on even doing readings, and sometimes I still think about it, because I really do want to help people. Okay, so I'm doing those, and then these are the Keepers of the Light Oracle cards, and this is the box on these. I'm going to be doing my favorite things. One of these days I keep saying I'm going to do it, but this is what this one is. And I'm going to just go through all of the decks that I love. I'm not going to do anything that I don't love. It's all going to be the ones that I do, because I just feel like being positive about the things that I like. Okay, and I have picked, Kuan Yin. It's funny, I went to this, when I was getting Reiki attuned, that was when I found out about the Doreen Virtues cards, and she was talking about Kuan Yin with the violet flame. I don't know. It's like the Saint Germain thing. It was a type of activation that I got. Care and compassion, choose to be loved, do what is right for everyone involved, offer a helping hand. Okay. And as I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking about Houston, because I'm filming this as Houston is going on, and here I am in sunny Illinois, and not, however many miles away, we're having these historic floods. So when I saw the words helping hand, I just am so my heart is so filled with joy at the signs of humanity out there, people helping other people. It's wonderful. Okay, so keep them in your thoughts if you're watching at a time when it's still going on, and even afterwards. Okay, so this is a simple 3-card tarot spread. Of course, I did add another card, but it's past, present, future, and I added a card because the Ten of Swords to me is not a card of resolution. So in the past position, we have the Ace of Pentacles. This can be a new job offer that you got, or if you have a new business that you began and you are, launching it and the like. You notice how they included a doorway, a portal. This is because since this is an ace, it's a whole new thing for you. And this is something that maybe it was a business loan, some new job that you thought you were getting, or that you did get. But in the present position, we have indifference. Now, why would this be? It could be that, and this happens, doesn't it? That people take a new job and they may be all excited about it, and then before they know it, they are disillusioned or disinterested. I will note that it's the Ace of Pentacles that I picked. I didn't pick the Ace of Wands. As fire signs, we Sagittarians, myself included, are passionate beings. Okay? So we need something that makes us feel alive. The Ace of Pentacles is an offer of new financial beginnings and solid financial beginnings. But if your heart isn't in it, which Cups relates to your emotional nature, then you may feel disillusioned really quickly. And this is just part of life. We discover that all that glitters isn't gold, right? The outcome is the Ten of Swords. This could have different connotations. There could be a feeling, you may have a sneaking suspicion that you're dealing with a bunch of snakes. And that may be why you're not that happy being in that situation. And then they put you out of your misery in a sense because they may betray you, and that allows you to just say, okay, I don't have any qualms about quitting because I have the perfect reason to quit. And in some cases, it may be that you have been dealing with a lot of on-again, off-again situations. Possibly, maybe you accepted a job offer during the Mercury retrograde and it just wasn't gelling properly. But I feel like the Ten of Swords, people think, oh my God, the Ten of Swords, it's so terrible. No, the number 10 indicates completion. So if you have been experiencing any sense of betrayal on the job, it's over. You're going to be done with that, and it's a cycle of that negativity being over. I noticed this in my own life in a different area, that the same situation kept showing up in my reality, and then all of a sudden it stopped, and I know that it's gone for good. And the reason I know this is because I just kept studying the law of attraction, and they say that things keep showing up until you learn that lesson. And once you've learned the lesson, you don't have to go and, review that lesson. So just look about it that way. It's about hitting bottom. But once you hit bottom, you come out on top eventually. So a negative cycle, maybe it's a thought process that you have that you have to expect some sort of backbiting in the workplace. That, it's only natural that coworkers are going to be treacherous. it's only natural that bosses are going to lie to you and tell you, maybe somebody told you something when they were offering you the job, and when you got there, you found out the truth and you were less than thrilled about it. And you know what happens too is that when you get disillusioned by something, it starts a chain reaction. That's also law of attraction. So your vibration gets lower, and then your experiences get lower too. I picked another card. This is a great card to kind of round off the tarot portion, because it's the King of Wands. This man is large and in charge. He's not waiting for somebody to give him a job. He's not a victim. This is a very yang energy, a double yang, double masculine energy, King in Fire. Okay, this could be, you know, definitely a Sag, but any kind of take charge energy. So you may decide, you know, screw this. I am doing my own thing because I can do this by myself. I don't need somebody else to give me direction. I can direct myself. I'm self-directed. It's amazing. As somebody who started my own business at an advanced age, I'm not elderly, but I'm not a spring chicken either. I mean, you just like do it, and you don't even have to have all this money. You can just do, I mean, if you're doing something online, you just do it. You just start where you are with what you have. You don't have to be grandiose about it. And you take your talents and you put them to use. And people try to overthink it. Sagittarians, we like independence and we like freedom. So consider that. And if you have a job still, and some of these cards don't really reflect your situation, you can still start your own business on the side. Be like the Jamaicans, have 3 jobs at once. And that just means having different income streams. Some people, you know, especially when they are in a situation where it's not like you can just snap your fingers and get a job, like in developing countries, they have multiple gigs and they're just hustling. They're just trying to make a buck, you know. And sometimes that's what you have to do when you're trying to stabilize yourself. If that's what stage you're at, there's no shame in that game whatsoever. And actually, it's the smart thing to do wherever you are, because then you're not dependent on one source of income, you know. You always know there's something coming in. And that, I think, helps with the law of attraction, because you always know there's multiple streams. There's not just, you don't put all your eggs into one basket. Okay, so this one is Doreen Virtue, I believe. And that was DNA. That's what she says. I'm glad I didn't drink more water. That would have been really hard to, that would have been a stretch to tie it into this reading. I don't know if that was this one. Oh, this was the Earth Magic. No wonder. Let me get that one. Earth Magic. Okay. DNA. Karma. Karma, a concept in many Eastern religions, is a Sanskrit word implying the greater universal laws of cause and effect, providing an implied code of ethics within the structure of the seemingly endless cycles of birth, death, and rebirth, samsara, which we experience throughout our lives in many different versions. The mistaken notion about karma is that it's some kind of punishment, but it's far from that. In fact, in its purest form, it simply asserts that our conduct in this lifetime will determine our next incarnation. It also, and I would add our next week, you know, where you are. I want to just say this very quickly, because if you are in a situation, for instance, where you hate your job, or maybe you don't have a job and you're putting out applications, realize that this moment is the past, that it is the sum of the actions that you've taken in the past, the sum of the thoughts, the beliefs, the things that you have spoken out loud. It is not determining your future. I put out a gazillion resumes and applications before I began this, and I got closed door after closed door. And my partner said to me, maybe the universe wants you to do something else. And I really was irritated by him when he kept saying that, because I thought that was all pie in the sky. I had no idea that I was going to do this. In 2000, I had no idea I was going to do this 4 years ago. And even when I did have an idea that I was going to do it, I didn't do it right away, because I realized it was not as easy as I thought. I thought, oh God, I can do this. I know about astrology. And I said, okay, whoa, what do I do first? And I decided to really kind of do a crash course in predictive astrology. And being able to structure a reading, because it's you watch something and you think you can replicate it until you try, and then it becomes a little bit harder than you thought it was. Okay, but just don't think that wherever you are at this moment is going to determine your future. You have no idea what an hour from now will bring you. I don't know where I'm just going to read this in case I didn't. It also has come to mean that how our behavior and actions in this lifetime create consequences in a slightly different version of the golden rule. We not only carry our soul's karma into this lifetime, but also embedded in the complex coding of our DNA is our genetic ancestral karma. The double helix structure of DNA contains codes that have been passed down from our parents and grandparents as well as our ancestors. Therefore, we have some of the same genetic information that comes from the DNA of very early humans. In this card, we see two intertwined serpents with double helixes on either side. Variations of this archetypal image exist in many cultures, both traditional and contemporary. That's what I was saying before. It's a graphic representation of the most ancient ancestry we can lay claim to, our DNA, the fundamental substance of life itself that provides substantial determination of our life path. And then they say aspects of your soul entered your primitive physical self long before you had begun to take form. While DNA that you inherited from your biological parents has a physical component, it also has a soul pattern that came together in the creation of you. You are predisposed to follow the karmic dictates of this pattern to some extent, yet as you evolve in your consciousness and expand the light of awareness, you can make choices that shift and modify this ancestral design. So I think this is what they're talking about with the DNA, the ascension and DNA. This is one of those times you can feel the tug of your soul that is both ancient and karmic, yet you recognize the persistent and loving communication from your higher self that contradicts the more familiar solutions before you. The choice is up to you, but know that every time you heed the guidance of your higher self, no matter what etheric or physical form it takes, human consciousness is elevated. In a sense, it becomes a choice between destiny and fate. That's pretty deep for, an earth card. Okay, so let me go. Now, how does that relate to your... How does that relate to your finances or your career? Well, what I would say about that, and it may not be exactly, a perfect analogy, but I would say that when you're looking at what it is that you want to do not focus on dollars and cents like a Virgo person would. I have a moon in Virgo, like an earth sign person would. Look at, and I think Sagittarians are pretty good about this, but look at it from the perspective of, I'm going to do what I love and the money will follow. There's actually a book called Do What You Love and the Money Will Follow. And I really feel like it does alter the reality of dollars and cents when you follow your heart. And you just have money available for you that enables you to live this life. And you don't have to like sit there with a pencil in your hand and try to crunch numbers. So just like your DNA can be altered, I think your reality as a whole can be altered. And so never just like get immersed in that 3D version. Okay, the next one is peace offering. This card heralds the resolution of an argument or misunderstanding. Those involved in the situation are ready to forgive and forget. Be open to seeing the other person's point of view to soften any hard feelings. As you allow compassion into the situation, love's healing power ensures that everyone's needs are met harmoniously. Leave the details about how the situation will be resolved to the infinite wisdom of spirit. Additional meanings for this card. Be willing to forgive. Have compassion for everyone involved in the situation, including yourself. Accept another's apology. See the humor in the situation. So I'm thinking about something like this. If you're dealing with some kind of betrayal in the workplace, you don't have to stay there, but you don't have to be mired in resentment either. And if somebody does, make a peace offering to you, that's perfectly fine. I'm thinking about a situation that occurred with me where I felt forced out of a place that I love to work. And the person who forced me out had been my coworker, and then all of a sudden she was my boss. And I felt like she was really unfair as a boss. And I quit after 2 weeks of her taking the helm. And I felt like she was really messing with me by what she was assigning me to do and things like that. And I couldn't take it. I felt like it was going to really affect me, so I quit. And I was really bitter about that because I felt like thwarted. I felt like somebody was trying to prevent me from my joy. And I remember seeing her, I don't know how long afterwards. She said hi to me, and I said hi, but I was just like, I had no desire to engage her. It was too fresh for me. And I'm a very forgiving person. But I felt like she needed to really think about how her actions impacted other people. And I wasn't ready to be casual about it. But I did say hi to her. I didn't just totally blow her off. And I think on another occasion, she was there, and I don't know, somebody said, oh, she wants to say hi, and I didn't go over there or something, but I never would deliberately snub somebody to their face, that's for sure. But for a long time, I really felt bitterness, and it grew because of that situation. And I'm talking about years, you guys. So what I'm trying to say is that now I realized it was just my anniversary of leaving that place yesterday. And it had been 16 years that have gone by since then. And I realize now she did me an amazing favor. And I wouldn't even be surprised if on the other side, when we might meet again, and she might tell me, yeah, this was what we had planned. You and I had planned for this experience before we came to the earth. And we were meant to do that dance. So don't ever get bitter by anything that somebody does. Realize that it could be for your highest good. And save yourself years of bitterness like I had. Okay, so White Buffalo Calf Woman is a prophetess who appears to the Lakota Native Americans. She presented the Lakotas with a special pipe to amplify the power of their prayers and to bridge a connection between earth and heaven. As she turned to leave the tribe, she turned into a buffalo of different colors to signify the unity of all races of humanity. She promised that she would return to help unity and peace to help bring unity and peace to Earth. The sign of her return would be the birth of a white buffalo calf. Call upon white buffalo calf woman to instill harmony in your relationships and for world peace. That's really cool. I'd like to learn more about Native American religion. Okay, this is Kuan Yin. Choose to be love, do what is right for everyone involved, offer a helping hand. And obviously with a helping hand, it's like you're not doing it with ulterior motives. I think that's a given. Okay, where is my booklets where I can talk about, oh, it's underneath every deck of cards. Kuan Yin is a bodhisattva, Buddha-like being, and the goddess of mercy, compassion, and love. Though she's acknowledged in Buddhism and the traditions of China, she goes beyond religion and warms the hearts of all who call on her. I have a Kuan Yin statue. My partner got it from one of his customers. And, you know, we just had the statue, didn't know what it was, or he knew what it was, but I didn't associate it with anything like this. So it's pretty cool now. Okay, here, I'll tell you why it's so cool. She has a strong connection to healing energy, in particular Reiki, and encourages people to offer care, forgiveness, and compassion to themselves and others. That must be why when I had my Reiki attunement, this came up. Compassion is about recognizing the spirit in others. It's about seeing that they come from the same source as you do. First of all, the Keepers of the Light want to acknowledge all the service and commitment you have offered to others. You are all love. If you are finding it difficult with anyone at the moment, the best way you can move forwards is to go beyond wanting to understand why or how they are the way they are. Just move beyond their behavior, mistakes, and challenges. This card brings a message of friendship and care, helping you to see that those around you do have the best intentions, even if it doesn't always seem that way. Move into compassion and develop a greater understanding. This will elevate your spirit and connection to love. And I would say, you know, because of what we have been talking about here with forgiveness, with the last card, I don't know if we assume that everyone always has the best intentions, because I think sometimes there can be malice. There can be somebody who actually actively plots your failure so that they can get ahead, and they know it. But I would say this, rather than saying that they are just trying to be helpful at all times, even if they don't think so. I think they're trying to be happy. And people do all kinds of things in an attempt to be happy, and some of them are incredibly misguided and very destructive to themselves. So having compassion for people who do that is really the best policy, because they hurt themselves most of all. And in the process, you can get sucked into that feeling of anger because you feel like somebody thwarted you, like I mentioned in my case. And that, you know, for me, it was very subtle because I tend to be a very positive person, and I didn't recognize it until some time had passed that I was starting to become more and more cynical. And I had to kind of put a stop to that, but it really isn't anything you can do massively by yourself. It's kind of like the passage of time in combination with trying to feed your mind with as much positive mind food as possible, and just observing where you're going with your thoughts is the best medicine. So I hope you enjoyed this, Sagittarius, and I wish you all the best in the coming months. Bye.